President Reevely, Provost Smith-Ferguson, members of the distinguished and dedicated faculty, Board of Visitors, and to the graduating class of 2019, it is an honor to be here. Let me say, looking out at you, you look marvelous. You are so beautiful to me, resplendent in your blue robes, well, maybe your Lancer blue robes, your smiles, the joy on your face, the pride in your voices touches my soul. Education is so important to my life, to the lives of my sisters and brothers, and to all of our friends, that whenever I have an opportunity to stand before people that are crossing this great threshold, I am deeply moved. You have worked hard for this day. You deserve what you're about to receive. In our tradition, you ran the race, you fought the fight, you walked and didn't get weary. Well done. Turn to your neighbor and give them a high five and say, congratulations. You will discover, as I have, that the diploma and the education you have received here is as valuable as gold. Your mind is the most powerful thing you will ever have. And the dedicated faculty here has led you on your personal journey through your personal wilderness to this place. In my mind, my mother was a teacher. In my mind, teachers help to defend the freedom and liberty of America. Let's give them all a big hand. I would like to dedicate this speech and this honorary degree to the memory of my father, the Reverend L. Francis Griffin, but also to my mother, Adelaide Payne Griffin, both of whom dedicated all of their adult lives in your tradition of citizen leadership to trying to make this community a better place. They both believed that the life best lived was one of service, focused on lifting up the least of these of our brethren and sisters. Their firm belief was that you should leave your community and this world just a little bit better than you found it. If they were here today, they would share with you their creed, which comes from the prophet Micah: act justly, love mercy, and walk humbly before God. I pray that my words will be helpful to you as you commence on your next phase of life. Now, sometimes when you grow up in the same tradition as Dr. Reevely and I have, you end up stealing from each other's speech without even knowing it. Yesterday, I have a tradition. I like to go and scope out the stage where I'm going to speak. And I came with my wife, Lynette, and I walked across this plaza and I stood here and looked out and I realized that I was indeed in the backyard of my boyhood home. It took me a moment to gather myself, and it is a reminder that history and life has a way of moving forward, even if slowly. My sisters and I used to walk from our home just about there. Sometimes we'd cut across the campus to First Baptist Church, to Sunday school, vacation Bible school, church ceremonies, and other events. And we would think, knowing at that time it was an all-women's school and all-white, we would think that no matter how well they did in school, and they were all great students, they would not be able to attend Longwood. I worked for years at the Globe, and we used to say that we had a ringside seat to history. Well, here in Farmville, we were in the ring of history. History has taught us that America moves forward not on the strength of its leaders alone, but on the strength of its citizen leaders, people like you, and you've been prepared here at this university to carry forward that great tradition. Now, I want to say there are some people who say that Longwood has not done enough. I don't share that opinion. Those were different times. We were engaged in a struggle of which at that period in time we were on opposite sides. But I want to say to Longwood, to the Board of Visitors, to the President, and to you who will soon be alumni, Longwood may not be what she will be. She may not be what she wants to be, but thank God she ain't what she was. Longwood has changed, and I applaud her efforts to grow, to improve, to offer, to provide more offerings to students, and to become more inclusive. In 1958, when we had to move from this home, the thought of me being here as speaker and the thought of students of color being in the graduating class was not a possibility. That is not lost on me, and it is not lost on the members of this community. Frederick Douglass, the most acclaimed figure of the 19th century anti-slavery movement, once said in his famous 1984 speech, Blessings of Liberty and Education, "Some men know the value of education by having it. I know the value by not having it." Well, I've had both experiences. As Dr. Reevely said, when the Prince Edward County Board of Supervisors defunded and closed the schools 60 years ago, I and 1,700 of my black fellow students faced the prospect of not graduating from high school, being at best semi-literate and unable to do the basic math calculations to manage our personal affairs and participate in the professional workforce. The experience was disruptive and traumatizing. I can tell you from personal experience, it is better to face the future, as you now do, having an education than not having an education. As an old farmer once said to me, "Son, if you can't read, write, and count the money, you're going to have trouble making it in America." Well, I think most of you are leaving here able to read, write, and count the money. But that's not all. Education is not just about securing a means or a way to earn a living. It is also learning to be a citizen and developing yourself more fully as a person. I was impressed with your efforts to bring the vice presidential debate here to Longwood, and I've been impressed with your efforts and the requirement that you spend some time learning and understanding what it means to become a citizen participant in this great democracy of ours. A college education is especially important if you are African American, Asian, Latino, or if you are white from families of modest means. Study after study has shown that you will have a better life and you will earn more income over your lifetime because you now have an education. And I'm afraid that in this period, some of our politicians are being a penny wise and pound foolish. This is not a time to defund education. This is a time to double down and put more money into education. We live in a world that is becoming increasingly technological. It's hot out here, so I won't recount the whole history of our struggle here to desegregate schools. But what I will say to you is that my father was not just interested in desegregated schools. He was at heart an educator. And if circumstances had been different in life, he perhaps would have joined Dr. Reevely's father at some university as a professor. Freedom unfolds over two phases. First, you have to become free from restrictive conditions or circumstances. Secondly, you have to have the freedom to become fully yourself. Freedom to become developed and to be the best person that you could be. My father was fond of saying that I'm not really here just to challenge segregation. I'm here to make sure that children in rural, small-town communities, children of farmers, children of workers, can have a space-age education that prepares them for a space-age society. Imagine what he would say now. We live in a world that's so rapidly changing. Much of what you have learned how to do here will be obsolete in 10 years. What will be most important is that you have learned how to learn. The world changes so quickly. I was speaking with a friend of mine and a friend of Dr. Crutch's, Phil Clay, and he was saying that much of the stuff that they teach freshmen at MIT will be obsolete before they're seniors. So I challenge you to do several things. I challenge you to devote yourself to a lifetime of learning. My father used to read the scriptures every day. He read 3 newspapers every day. He read a new book every week. As a matter of fact, the day before he died, he went to Richmond with Jim G. and a few other fellows from here, and he purchased 3 new books, which he never got to complete. We owned over 2,000 volumes in our home, and trust me, we were required to read many of them. As you go forward in life, I challenge you to be a lifelong learner. The world requires you to never stop learning, never trying to stop to understand your neighbors, never stop trying to understand the changes that are occurring, never stop trying to understand all of the peoples in the nation that make up this beautiful world that is our home. I also challenge you, if you're not going into the noble profession of education, to challenge our communities to tax themselves just a wee bit more to ensure that all children have a quality education. There will be people who say we don't need more taxes. And I say to them, and this is not grammatically correct, and I'm aware of this, as we were taught in those days, freedom ain't free. Progress ain't free. Innovation ain't free. And prosperity sure is not free. You have to make a significant investment of money, time, and effort to keep America the great country that she wants to be. If we want to be great, and I'll leave out the word great again, we have to invest in education. It is the only way that we shall remain great. So I ask you to go forward into the communities and become advocates for public education, also to become advocates for ways to fund people from families of lesser means who want to attend college. Right now, there's an attempt in D.C. to cut back Pell Grants. Well, Pell Grants are colorblind. They are for students who have financial need. We don't need to be cutting back Pell Grants. We need to be putting more money into them so that people from Southside Virginia, rural Mississippi, the inner cities can all find ways to attend higher education. Higher education is the great definer of the future that is before you. And finally, I want to say, take a page from your university. 60 years ago, we in this community struggled against each other. For the last 10 years or so, we have struggled together to find a way forward, to reconcile with one another, and to move this community this Commonwealth, this nation towards a more perfect union. I challenge you to continue what your university has done here. On behalf of the community and the family, I accept the expression of profound regret. I express the attempt to make this university, I support the attempt to make this university more inclusive. I am thankful that Longwood has entered into a historic partnership with the Moulton Museum to preserve history, and I hope that we can all go forward united as one. I wish you well. I wish you sunshine. I wish you ribbons to tie your hair. I wish you friends that treat you fair. I wish you sunshine on a cloudy day, and I hope that for the rest of your lives, you're able to laugh out loud. God bless you.